Yeah, one thing I would just like to follow up, the Dante and the Inferno part. Those references are direct here, and when we look at Schlosser, there seems almost a sense that he might have studied Sinclair. But when we look, before we go to Schlosser, keep in mind this one. Robin's absolutely right. The audience for this is very different than the subject. The intent also was more to expose the hardship of the immigrant populations working in these plants. Now, Schlosser does that as well, but I think with the fictional, with the novelist here, is working from the point of view of Jurgis. It's a third-person narrative, obviously, but Jurgis is telling. We're kind of in his head. Jurgis heard of these things little by little, and then we get all of this information. Again, so many details, almost as though there's a kind of journalistic detail here. But let me say too that as Robin was reading this, it's pretty vivid. It's pretty graphic, but wait till you get to Schlosser. And that's where you see the difference between the novelist and the kind of firm but steadier hand of the novelist versus the journalist, who really has a purpose here to rile people up and, in fact, to horrify them. Before we read the Schlosser piece, I almost feel like I should be on CNN and say something like, the following images are graphic and maybe disturbing because they really, really are. But let's go to the Schlosser piece here, and I'm going to read from the beginning of it. So, Nicole, if you can go to the next slide, I think this is from Chapter 8 of Fast Food Nation. Okay, I'm going to start to read a little bit here from Fast Food Nation, and I'm actually going to talk about it as I read it. One night I visited a slaughterhouse somewhere in the High Plains. The slaughterhouse is one of the nation's largest. About 5,000 head of cattle enter every day, single file, and leave in a different form. Someone who has access to the plant, who is upset by its working conditions, offers to give me a tour. The slaughterhouse is an immense building. The slaughterhouse is one of the nation's largest. About 5,000 head of cattle enter it every day, single file. Nicole, I'm sorry. I'm reading from two different texts. I'm going to start over.
Okay. Whenever you need to.
One night I visited a slaughterhouse somewhere in the High Plains. The slaughterhouse is one of the nation's largest. About 5,000 head of cattle enter it every day, single file, and leave in a different form. Someone who has access to the plant, is upset by its working conditions, offers to give me a tour. The slaughterhouse is an immense building, gray and square, about 3 stories high, with no windows on the front and no architectural clues to what's happening inside. My friend gives me a chain mail apron and gloves, suggesting I try them on. Workers on the line wear about 8 pounds of chain mail beneath their white coats, shiny steel armor that covers their hands, wrists, stomach, and back. The chainmail is designed to protect workers from cutting themselves and from being cut by other workers, but knives somehow manage to get past it. My host hands me some Wellingtons, the kind of knee-high rubber boots the English gentlemen wear in the countryside. Tuck your pants into the boots, he says. We'll be walking through some blood. Now, right away here, we get, I visit a slaughterhouse, and how do I get access? Someone who has access has offered. Then he refers, my friend gives me a chainmail apron. Right away, we have the journalist here who's telling us this is first person. This is, I was there. I saw this. If you want to talk in terms of rhetorical analysis, we've got ethos aplenty here. I visited this one night, first of all. You do have a lot of plot here. I mean, I love the fact that you have almost mounting conflict as in a novel here, because it's nighttime. I go to the slaughterhouse. Here's what it looks like. And then we also, I'm putting on chain mail apron and gloves, shiny steel armor. So right away we're doing battle here. I mean, this could not be more dramatic. And so Schlosser is writing an eyewitness account. He's giving us information about, he's giving us setting, right, taking the novelist's tool here of creating setting, and also the novelist's tool of working with plot. Okay, he's given us some minor characters already. Actually, they're going to become major characters, but the workers on the line wear 8 pounds of chain mail. So we get shiny steel armor that covers their hands, wrists, stomach, and back, and just like ancient warriors, the chain mail can't protect everything. So sometimes they get hurt. And then there's a little irony in here, almost, I wouldn't say humor, but definitely irony here, when he says he's offered some Wellingtons, the kind of knee-high rubber boots that we see Queen Elizabeth wearing when she's on her one of her country estates. This is not what you would expect to see in the slaughterhouse. And in fact, you're tucking your pants into the boots because you're going to be walking through blood. Not exactly what we would expect in the setting where we find the Wellington boots on Downton Abbey. Then he says, I put on a hard hat and climb a stairway. The sounds get louder, factory sounds, the noise of power tools and machinery, bursts of compressed air. We start at the end of the line, the fabricating room. Workers call it fab. When we step inside, fab seems familiar, and catwalks, pipes along the walls, a vast room, a maze of conveyor belts. This could be the Lamb Weston plant in Idaho, except hunks of red meat ride the belts instead of French fries. Some machines assemble cardboard boxes, others vacuum seal subprimals of beef in clear plastic. The workers look extremely busy, but there's something unsettling about this part of the plant. You see meat like this all the time in the back of your local supermarket. Again, the surrealism of it here as he's putting it together. And also each of our senses is not just evoked, but it's almost the senses are assaulted. Notice we're getting a lot of visuals here, obviously. One of the things we also find here is that there's no sound from the workers. I mean, there's sound in the fab, as it were, and that is in and of itself a bit of surrealism here. And it is fabulous in the original meaning of the word. But the workers are quiet, and then we get this silence of the workers in terms of their participation in anything that's going on, but then you also, they're existing in this setting where there's a great deal of noise and jarring noise, dissonance, where you look. The fab room, and also in the next one here, the fab room is cooled to about 40 degrees. Notice the plot heating up here. And as you head up the line, the feel of the place starts to change. Intensifying conflict here, very much like a story. The pieces of meat get bigger. Workers, about half of them women, almost all of them young and Latino, slice meat with long, slender knives. They stand at a table that's chest high, grab meat off a conveyor belt, trim away fat, throw meat back on the belt, toss the scraps onto a conveyor belt above them, and then grab more meat, all in a matter of seconds. I'm now struck by how many workers there are, hundreds of them, pressed close together, constantly moving, slicing. You see hard hats, white coats, flashes of steel. Nobody is smiling or chatting. They're too busy, anxiously trying not to fall behind. An old man walks past me pushing a blue plastic barrel filled with scraps. A few workers carve the meat with wizards, small electric knives that have spinning round blades. The wizards look like the Norelco razors that Santa rides in the TV ads. I notice that a few of the women near me are sweating, even though the place is freezing cold. And it also, just the syntax here, you're completely overwhelmed. We could talk about polysyndeton, asyndeton, we talk about compound sentences, cumulative sentences here. But the point is that the effect that he's getting by using these sentences that work by accretion is that the reader is feeling overwhelmed. The reader can't help but start to feel the stultifying, pretty horrifying environment here. You can't move. People aren't speaking. Again, what characterizes human beings is speech, and they are not speaking here. They are denied that. They are completely immersed or required to be immersed in their task. Then we get into even more graphic descriptions here. Sides of beef suspended from an overhead trolley swing toward a group of men. Each worker has a large knife in one hand and a steel hook in the other. They grab the meat with their hooks and attack it fiercely with their knives. As they hack away using all their strength, grunting, the place suddenly feels different, primordial. The machinery seems beside the point, and what's going on before me has been going on for thousands of years. The meat, the hook, the knife, men straining to cut more meat.